Hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, 5 Tips for Reimagining the Customer Journey in a Post-COVID-19 World. My name is Marjorie Sanabria. I'm the Managing Editor at Demand Gen Report, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. During and after today's presentation, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag BII20. All of our Twitter handles are right here on your screen. We look forward to connecting with you on social. You'll be able to tweet from directly within the On24 platform here using the Twitter widget on your screen. Also, if you haven't done so already, join more than 60,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing to demandgenreport.com today. For today's presentation, we're using the On24 platform. During the presentation, you can access all the information you need from the platform toolbar. Like I mentioned earlier, you can tweet from directly within the platform using the Twitter widget that's on the left-hand side of the screen. We also encourage you to ask our presenter questions. To do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of the screen. Today's presentation is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes, with 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following the session. You can submit your questions using this Q&A widget at any time. Today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or share with colleagues. We also welcome you to let us know how we're doing so we can continue to improve the level of value we provide you. Please take our quick survey that will automatically launch once this webinar session ends. You can also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon circled here on the bottom of your screen. Before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire. All right, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers today. Gary Gerber is Head of Product Marketing at Follows, the leading B2B customer engagement platform. Follows empowers enterprises to engage, develop, and win their target accounts by creating highly engrossing and data-powered personalized experiences across every customer touchpoint. Mr. Gerber brings extensive product marketing leadership experience in AI, sales and marketing orchestration, security, technology, payments, healthcare, nonprofit, and startup sectors in North America, Asia Pacific, Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East. An in-demand speaker and presenter, Mr. Gerber has headed product marketing, product development, and product innovation at multiple companies and is inventor of record on 7 international patents. Colleen Goldblatt leads global programs for strategic account marketing at Click. Click helps companies lead with data to see more deeply into customer behavior, reinvent business processes, discover new revenue streams, and balance risk and reward. Colleen brings the creativity and insights from 20 years of leadership in field and channel marketing teams. She is consistently recognized for leading strategy development that challenges norms, is a collaborative partner, bringing together unconventional teams to drive successful marketing outcomes, and partnering with sales to achieve consistent growth through industry-leading ABM strategies. We're so excited to have you both here today with us. Thank you so much for being here, and please, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Marjorie. We're really happy to be here. Colleen, thank you for joining us as well. Today we're going to be discussing the top 5 tips for reimagining the customer journey, ultimately answering the question, what if you could deliver a personalized experience to to every one of your accounts. As Marjorie mentioned, my name is Gary Gerber, and I head up product marketing at Follows, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to have with me Colleen Goldblatt, who's a Senior Strategic Account Marketing Manager at Click. Hi, Colleen.
Hey, Gary. Thanks for having me on today.
My pleasure. Aren't you excited to be with me, too, or is it just like a one-way thing?
Gary, I'm always excited to be with you.
All right. Thank you, Colleen. Sorry, I could not resist. So just a quick introduction to who we are. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but it is significant for the discussion at hand. We are Follows. We provide B2B companies the ability to execute personalized marketing to power their customer journeys. And this is really significant because a lot of platforms are out there to kind of personalize pieces or touch points or moments in a customer journey, but this Follows allows companies to personalize across the entire journey, and people use it for ABM and demand generation and their resource centers and all sorts of interesting applications. And it's about that experience, it's about personalization, it's about orchestration, and as you can see, of course, we've got the NASCAR logos. Some of the very, very top B2B enterprises in the world take advantage of Follows, and of course, we hope folks who watch the presentation today will be super impressed and do the same. But even if you don't, that's okay. We hope you get some good, useful, interesting information here. So if you think about it, if I could see everyone's hands here, everybody just raise your hand when I ask the question. Who here has received an email recently that says something about, in these unprecedented times? Colleen, have you received a couple of those?
I have decided that unprecedented is the word of the year that I am not going to say anymore.
Indeed. But in these unprecedented times, now things have changed a lot, folks, and I think we can all agree that there's this huge, we're calling it a power shift, really. And it used to be if you were a B2B marketer, even 5 years ago or 4 years ago, you still kind of sat in the driver's seat. You had your marketing automation. You kind of pushed experiences out, and customers were somewhat dependent on you. But in these unprecedented times, things have changed completely, and now the power shifted to the customers, as it probably should. And in particular, people are used to their Netflix experience and their B2C-centric experiences where they drive what happens and they receive an incredible experience. And as more and more millennials enter the workforce, they are really, they're referred to as the digital natives, and they all, like everyone, have this expectation that they're going to receive an excellent experience. And that's not just a showy thing. That's actually an experience that is valuable to them and relevant to them and helps them successfully navigate their buying journey. And interestingly, a recent survey actually showed that people are more likely to make a purchase decision based on an excellent experience with a vendor than they even are based on what the vendor's offering, which is kind of amazing. Does that jive with what you're saying, Colleen?
Yeah, it really does. My experience in both B2B and consumer, I'm seeing a lot of those consumer expectations pull through to the work that we're doing, and frankly, it's an opportunity to kind of stand out and deliver something new. So, I know that Follows is really at the front of making some of that happen, and why we really enjoy working with you guys.
Ah, shucks, Colleen. We enjoy working with you. All right, moving on. So when we talk about a customer journey, there's a term that you'll hear us use pretty frequently, and we call that account-based experiences. And you can tell from what we've been talking about, the experience is really key. And what is an ABX? What is an account-based experience? It's this commitment to a customer-centric process and a customer-centric way of looking at this journey for our customers so that at every turn, they have the information and the messaging and the content that they need to have a great experience and drive themselves through the process until they're ready to engage with you. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So when you think about what does that mean, an account-based experience, ABX, ultimately it's, what if you could deliver, as I said before, that personalized experience to every single one of your accounts? So we promised you the 5 top tips for making that happen, and of course Colleen and I don't waste any time. Rather than putting these at the end of the presentation, we put them up front, but don't worry, we're going to dig into more depth on all of them. The 5 top tips for doing it. Number 1, set a very clear goal for your journey. Okay? If you don't have clear goals, there's no way you can measure or really achieve success. Related to that, so then focus, focus, focus. Number 3, make sure that you designed a content-rich experience that's one-to-one for every one of your accounts and customers. Number 4, leverage all the different sources of data that are available to you to make sure that happens well. And 5, tools are great. I sell tools, but in the end, it's about people, it's about process. Those are what come first. And what's exciting also is that we're going to talk a little bit about the theory behind this and execution, pardon me, but then Colleen is going to actually show you how she's making this work for real, which is what I want to see. So when you think about a customer journey, or really any journey for that matter, it's based on it's a collection of experiences over time, and it changes over time. But in this case, it's not only time that's changing, but it's the channels, right? As your customer goes through their journey, they're interacting with you or experiencing you over time, but on lots of different channels. So ads and social media and your website and all these other ones that are shown here. So you need to be able to personalize, A, consistently over time, but B, consistently across these different channels as well. And you have to think about, what kind of experience are you giving them? Again, as we said at the start, I think people are kind of burned out on COVID-19 emails, for example. And so how do you deliver those experiences across the accounts, and how do those experiences engage? And how's that engagement ultimately, how's that build trust? And most importantly, how are you going to do this in a fashion that's reasonably quick and reasonably cost effective? Even though Colleen, I know, has hundreds and hundreds of people at her disposal, she needs to use them wisely. Right, Colleen?
I think you overestimate slightly on hundreds and hundreds, but the key is making it scalable, right? So that you don't need those hundreds of people.
Exactly. So as marketers, we've been kind of hard-coded to think about the journey as, the traditional funnel. You got the funnel on the top, the stuff goes in, it narrows down, how do you get it through the funnel? And realistically, in this day and age, you have to kind of reorient that whole mindset, the whole concept of programs and budgets and the content and the data and the tech stack. It's really different now. And so what we really want to center around is, what are you trying to achieve? At Follows, we recommend people look at it in 4 different stages, but different companies have different ways of looking at it. But we look at this attract phase, this engage phase, the accelerate phase, and the expand phase. And you really want to look at it that way for a couple of reasons. One is your goals will vary from stage to stage. If you're trying to attract someone, you have different goals than if you're trying to accelerate them through the process. And perhaps even more importantly is you need to make sure that you have the skill sets and the tools necessary for each of the different stages. In fact, a lot of organizations these days are reorganizing their marketing, not around the funnel, but actually around the different stages that are shown here. Colleen, is that consistent with what you're saying?
Absolutely. I think that, everything that we're seeing is driven by personalized experiences, personalized content, and really understanding these stages of who needs what and when. So, this model to me is something that, you've shown here, but verbalizes or you've verbalized it better than we normally do. It's just sort of how we execute.
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, would this possibly be an ABM presentation without a segmentation slide?
Oh, Gary, you had to throw this one in, right?
Exactly. It had to be. But believe it or not, Colleen, it actually is salient to the discussion. If you think about segmentation, though, yes, this is kind of the traditional segmentation for ABM. But when you think about account-based experiences, it really is important because you want to focus around an experience, kind of an experience lens is what I call it. So for that top tier, that tier A, it's going to be a very highly tailored experience. And for that kind of middle tier, it's going to be a little bit more programmatic, but you still need to make it highly personalized, as Colleen said. And then for the broader base at the bottom, it still has to be highly personalized, but you can't throw tons and tons of resources at it. And so when you think of it that way, it makes sense, but of course then it sounds really complex because you say, well, how do I figure out what content everyone needs and what messaging and where am I going to get all the data to do that in the most appropriate fashion? But ultimately, it doesn't actually have to be that challenging, and that's part of the reason I'm so excited for Colleen's section. She's going to explain to you how she did it. But ultimately, you do want to think about what level of automation is necessary to each of these stages, what type of staffing and resources you need to apply to make sure that you're doing it in the smartest kind of fashion. So Colleen mentioned it, and I think I've mentioned it a couple times, personalization. And that means so many different things to so many different people. But what we're talking about here is specifically that personalized journey, making sure that from the first moment an organization, even before they engage with you, but certainly the first moment where they might, all the way through when they do engage, when they're doing their self-education, to the time afterwards, after they've purchased, when they're an ongoing customer and they're expanding, all these phases, this entire journey is deeply personalized in a consistent and, more importantly, highly valuable way to them. So what it says, you have the right assets, you have the right messages, the right imagery, you have the packages that can carry that journey. And ultimately, what you're trying to achieve is the three things, right? You want to make sure that you've tailored that robust, that content-rich, personalized journey for every account. Every one of those buyers should feel that you've added value for them so that they, in turn, want to engage with you, because there's no way you're going to make them do it. And you have to be able to do that. I know Colleen doesn't have hundreds of people. She's got tens of people, I think. And you have to do it at a reasonable cost. And you have to do it with a reasonable effort so you can actually scale it. So when you're thinking about that entire customer journey, as I described, you have to think pretty carefully. You have to think about, well, what's the cadence of the various components, the campaigns, and what kind of channels are you going to execute on, and what kind of content are you going to offer up there, and over what kind of timing, to ensure that you provide that best experience for the buyer. It can get really complex. If you think about all the different permutations, you're asking yourself what content, what channels, all that kind of thing. Most importantly, you really have to take kind of a long view, because yes, you could spray and pray with your emails like people used to do a few years ago, but especially nowadays, if you do that, you're going to alienate people, and you may not get them back. And so you really have to take that long view, make sure they have this great experience, and think about in your campaigns, what are going to be offers they'll find valuable? What are the calls to action that are going to be relevant? What content are you going to offer them that they will genuinely want to engage with, whether or not they buy from you, and that's okay, but that they'll consider you a trusted advisor? And across what channels? How do you meet them where they are, when they are, in a way that works well for them so that they get that excellent buyer's journey and they look to you and say, oh, okay, well, that's a company that I want to be involved with. I'll listen to what they have to say and see how we can actually do business together. So I know, Colleen, you, like me, you're a big planner. You have to make sure you have an engagement plan. And again, across the attract phase, across the engage phase, across the accelerate phase, across the expand phase, you may have different frequency within them. You may have different aspects. You may use different channels. But the most important thing is that you have a plan. And with a plan, you'll be consistent. The right plan makes you consistent. It makes you offer up that right content, the right messaging, and just be prepared to do it over the long haul. This slide, I actually like the title of this slide, Let the Data Guide You, because I think this is an example of how things have really changed over just the last few years. And I'd say yesterday, as it were, data was almost the end. You were doing static. You had these websites and landing pages that were relatively static, and you had campaigns that were being driven out of marketing automation, and you had lead management and scoring. And ultimately, I would argue that the goal of these was to come up with data about your customers that was then useful and actionable. And it's now, today, completely flipped on its head. And the customer data is actually the means by which you achieve your goals. By having this rich customer data that's inside your house, that's in your marketing automation, that's third party, that's intent, all these different data sources allow you to then orchestrate across your organization and with your sales team and your marketing team and all the others to create these excellent experiences across all these different channels that will lead your customers to want to engage with you. Complete reversal. Would you agree with that, Colleen?
Oh, of course I would. You know, as a data company, you know, we're really entrenched in data and not just use it and working with our customers not to just think about data for reporting, which is that backwards-looking view, but data with a forwards-looking view for optimization of programs and for really driving business forward rather than just reporting on what we did and if it worked or not.
That's what I figured. So we're talking about personalized journeys at scale. We talked about that. What's that mean? Well, it means an experience that's deeply personalized per customer, per account, but either one to few, which means, you know, it's very handcrafted, or one to many. You still need to be able, for your long tail of customers and accounts, you still need to be able to achieve that high level of personalization. So what we're showing here is one way to achieve it. The way, obviously, I would recommend you do it. This is what we call a follows board, and this represents the experience that the customer is getting. But if you think about it, on the left side, you're building this experience once or a very small number of times, and you're letting automation and data, the visitor data, intent data, and account data, sort of build in with AI to spit out on the other side very highly individualized experience. So it's build once or build a few times, but deploy across, well, I mean, we have customers doing this across tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of customers, each one getting this highly personalized journey, even though you didn't have to build it yourself by hand. So here's what it looks like. And most importantly, when you're providing that highly personalized experience, these are kind of things you want to make sure you're addressing with your customers. So if you look from top to bottom, make sure you've got some messaging, key messaging. Why should they even care about what you have to say or what you have to offer? And then key actions. What do you want them to do? If they do engage, well, how can we make sure that they move forward in a way that's constructive? And then key content. What's the information that they care about? What do they want to know? What's going to help them move forward in their processes? And then content packaging. How can they easily get access to what they want to see, when they want to see it, share it with who they want to share it with? And then key takeaways. Ultimately, what do we want them to walk away from this experience remembering and valuing? So in the end, what needs to be done? Well, obviously technology is important. And again, I sell technology, but that's fine. It means nothing if you don't have the right people, you don't have the right processes in place. Those have to come first, right? So you have to think about it from an organizational perspective. You're going to have to do segmentation. You're going to be building your campaigns. You're going to be measuring your success and achievement. You're going to be aligning with your sales team. You're going to be aligning and taking advantage of your content teams. So you have to think about, where do you want to dedicate your resources? And, if you have existing accounts or even new accounts, who are the strategic people who you're going to engage internally to own the account and move them forward? This is sales. This is your accounting development, your marketing operations, demand gen, events, field marketing, executives. All of them together, you have to think about specifically how each one is going to play in this execution, so that way you maximize their participation, maximize their buy-in, and leverage all the different tools and processes available to you the best way you can. Now, that's a lot of words I've used, and I hope that you've got some good food for thought about how you're going to approach your program. But I'm most excited to, of course, bring on next Colleen, who's going to explain how she's actually done all this. And it's kind of mind-blowing. I think you're going to enjoy this. So, Colleen, if you do us a favor and explain to us this really awesome program that you folks have been working on.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for the opportunity to share Click's story and our journey over the last few months with the audience today. I think we've already done a good intro, so let's go to the next slide here. And without backing up too much, I do want to share a little bit about Click. I think it's important to understand who we are and how we go to market. Click really is focused on how data moves through organizations. We work with about 50,000 customers, and especially now, as more and more companies are leaning on data to make decisions, we're helping them move faster, work smarter, and really our tagline and our approach is to lead with data. We're focused on how data is moving through organizations and really enabling active intelligence. I talked about earlier, rather than just reporting and looking back, how are we encouraging and helping our customers to use the data that's available to them and look forward to drive their business? So we're always focused on getting the right data through data operations, whether, a lot of times that data is sitting in a lot of different systems across organizations that don't talk to each other, and so we're helping with that. We're trying to get that data available to have the right analytics happening, again, looking forward, not just backward, to people with the right skills. And a new practice for us, or fairly new practice, is in the realm of data literacy, really making sure that people not just understand how to look at numbers and how to look at the data, but really how to interpret that and how to drive their business forward with it. So when we look at how Click's going to market with our account-based marketing program, we've got the pyramid here, which I did give Gary a hard time about, but it's important to think about segmentation. Of course it is. And at Click, we're really focused in our strategic account program on the tip of the pyramid here with our one-to-one programs covering about 300 global accounts. These are all existing customers with large installations of Click where we're choosing to invest additional resources. The program's grown over the last 6 years. Although it took us 6 years to get here to this 300 accounts, we actually started with about 40 accounts and one account-based marketer, and now we're supporting 300 accounts that are global, supported by a marketing team of 7. Now that's direct support. Of course, we've got our indirect support across the organization where we're working with field marketing and global marketing and programs and other teams to really build through the work that we're doing. Our account-based marketers are fully integrated into the account teams. So our account-based marketers sit side by side with sales and technical teams, customer success, consulting, training, you name it. They are all at the table together, really helping to drive the strategy forward for those organizations. And for some of our accounts, we get really close and bring the customer champion into that circle. And we run a champion-sponsored ABM program that we call Click Infusion, which is really about driving adoption, awareness, and expansion, but not just how Click defines that. It's really about how the customer is defining that. And in this program, we're actually taking the customer's brand and branding the entire program to look and feel like it's internal comms and not just Click as their data or analytics partner coming in and doing additional promotion. And then at the bottom line, it's important to understand that this program is working for us. We are continuing to get executive support and continuing to get the support of the organization because year over year, we're driving about 30% sales growth within these accounts. Now, I did talk about how we're in a land and expand environment, working with existing customers, but that doesn't change our goals. We're always still working on awareness and engagement and demand, particularly because a lot of the all of the accounts that we're working with are huge global or multinational or international organizations that have, while they've got a large installation of Click, there's still a lot of opportunity within those organizations. So some of the most common ways we're engaging with our customers are going to look familiar to you. The channels and media that we are using are not special or unique. Where we have found the power is really in in-person engagement, because when you're in analytic software, there's a lot of power in interacting with people and showing them the actual product, getting their hands on it, and showing them that a process that used to take 80% of your time to, really process the data before you could spend 20% of your time actually doing something with it, understanding the data and what it's telling you and how to make business decisions. We can actually flip that to 20% or less of your time processing the data and, free you up to spend 80% or more actually making business decisions and understanding that data. There's a lot of power in that. And so when we spend time with our customers, we are in their accounts. We're doing an account days. They're custom to each customer. And the agenda that we're building and the speakers that we're bringing in are always reflecting the goals of those customers and our account teams. That is, we did do those in-person events until COVID-19 came along and done what it's done to all of you. It took away our opportunity for some of our most best performing and most impactful engagement opportunities. We knew as a team that we were going to have to quickly adapt and change our approach. And in a matter of about a week, we reimagined how to engage with our customers. We knew we had to continue to support their needs for continuous learning, for engagement, and our desire to continue to build those new relationships. As we started to think about what was going to be important in building this new program, we really came up with a few criteria that we knew it was going to have to fit into. First of all, it was going to have to be personalized. Gary talked a lot about personalization, and Follows does that really well. In our account-based experience and our account-based marketing program, these relationships are one-to-one. We knew we could not just build a peanut butter spread program and have it work for every single customer. It had to really reflect their unique needs, their unique installation, and their unique relationship with us. Second, it had to be scalable. So not just for our team, the direct team in account-based marketing, but also for our presenters. So we knew that we would be asking a lot of our executives, our marketing teams, our sales teams, and frankly our customers, because all of those people are really heavily involved in the co-planning and co-production of those events. And so we knew that we were going to have to be smart with everybody's time. And last, but certainly not least, we knew that it was going to have to be memorable. We were going to have to stand out because we were not the only ones switching to online. Everybody else was too. And we were competing not just with our own teams and some of our competitors, but our customers' employees had limited attention to be able to give to really anything with life changing at home, life changing at work, everything that was going on. We knew that we were not just competing with ourselves or with our competitors, but we were competing with life in general. Gary, is this consistent to what you were seeing with some of the other customers you were working with? I don't think we're special in any of these areas.
Well, Colleen, you folks are very special. There's no question about it. Your experiences are not unique. That's very consistent with what we're seeing across the customer base, yeah.
So hopefully these 3 3 kind of criteria are something that any of you could listen to and kind of think about, when you're talking about Gary's top 5 and how you're building these programs. Maybe these things are something that you could really think through as you're building your own programs out. So the Click team banded together, and the creativity in the team really just wowed me as we started to come together to concept what became the Virtual Passport program. Really, this program is built as a framework that could be used to execute a myriad of events for almost any customer. Essentially, we built a box and a wrapper that lots of different content and content experiences could fit into, but have a really solid look, feel, brand, and cohesiveness that helped the experience feel really special to that customer. The events are co-branded and co-promoted with our customers. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Every single piece of the execution is personalized to what the customer is needing. We're very involved with our customer champions and our customer contacts to make sure that we are delivering exactly what they need. And we've done our best to generate some fun that we often hope to generate with in-person events so that we can sort of start to replicate a little bit of that, even if it's limited, even if the opportunities are limited. So I'll show you a little bit about what we've built here. So first and foremost, we talked about, I mentioned that we knew it was going to be important that our events be personalized. So you'll see on the left here that we are using Follows boards as the home base for each event series that we are hosting. It gives us a single call to action and a place to house all of the resources that we're making available to our customers. So to build these events and help them feel really personalized to each customer, we are leveraging our strategic account plan, what we're trying to accomplish in the account. We're leveraging intent data that we're pulling from Demandbase and Sixth Sense, along with that customer champion input to understand what we can achieve and what we need to do within this environment. Really linking back to Gary's top 5 when he talks about goals and focus. We're making sure that we have that right focus to pull together his number 3, the right content. When we start talking about how we're promoting each event, we're leveraging a combination of batch emails and really leaning heavily into our customer champions and their internal comms team to promote registration, which is kind of a different take on this. But we knew that partnering with our customer champions would help us do a couple of things, not the least of which is taking care of our contact database. We know that everybody's getting lots of emails and being really, frankly, sometimes over-communicated with right now. And we wanted to prevent that over-communication and that burnout and hearing from us and others. So in order to break through, we started partnering with our customer champions to send those invitations out and let those invites come from a trusted internal team member or leader that gives us some additional credibility to our events. And it's helping us to expand our reach to new audiences. So, those customer champions are sending emails out to their broader organizations, and they're actually helping us reach people who were never in our database to start with. However, on the back end, we do still like to host and manage all of the registration for the event so that we can ensure that we're tracking engagement and impact of all of the programs. I did mention that we like to try to inject a little bit of fun here. So, what's a great event without a little bit of swag? This presented a particular challenge to us in that nobody was working in offices. Everybody was at home. And so we had to really think closely about how we were going to execute a direct mail program or get some fun swag to our customers. So to execute this program, we knew that privacy was going to be one of the biggest hurdles we were going to have to overcome. We knew that not only did our customers, we didn't want their home addresses in our database, and they didn't want us to have them in our database. So we found some great partners in our fulfillment vendor and our internal teams who pulled together a way to enable our event registrants to opt in to a direct mailing. We're securely passing their shipping data, which we're calling their preferred shipping address. We're securely passing that to our vendor. We're never storing the addresses in our CRM. And we're only using them for this one mailing. Actually, we're using them for two, because on the back end of the program, after people attend the events, we have a thank you gift that is kind of like a you've arrived, and it's luggage claim, and it's a nice little carry-on bag that we're providing to our attendees.
What? That's amazing.
I know, thinking about travel, it's a little aspirational, right? Maybe someday we'll all get to use carry-on bags again.
What I love about the program, Colleen, and I mentioned this to you the other day, is the thing that we've talked about personalization, we've talked about non-physical events, and you've used the word multiple times that I love, fun. And it's really probably the most valuable commodity these days is creativity, and that's what I love about this whole program, is it demonstrates just some pretty massive creativity, and with the look and the feel and the fun, and people, again, it's about people wanting to engage, and that's partly about value, but that's partly about just being a human, right? And I think this is really cool.
Well, thanks. You know, it's funny, you pull out that I've said fun a few times. What I really notice when you're talking is that you talk about people. And to me, people is where we start with everything. And it's why we personalize. It's why we want people to have that, your word, human experience, is that we know we've got to, kind of engage with them, not just on a transactional level, but really on more of an emotional level, to, get them to care about us, to know that we care about them and their success and where they're going, and how we can help them move forward. Because if we're not showing that, why are they going to come to our events? Why are they going to engage with us? Funny we should talk about people. We also know that people are human and have to, we really want to make sure that the experiences that we're providing are really user-friendly. So we want to make everything that we're delivering really easy to consume. We're leveraging On24 to host all of our webinars, much like you're on today. It's a great platform for what we're trying to accomplish in a way that allows us to again, go back to scalability and some of the other things that we knew we had to do. So from a scalability perspective, we are working with our executive team to pre-record the core presentations that we know that they would be asked to give over and over and over again. If they record it once and we can pop it into the On24 event, we know that we can then ask them to come for the Q&A session, but be really smart with their time. And then we're surrounding those pre-recorded sessions with a lot of customer-centric content and presentations that are unique to each environment and each customer and each implementation. The other thing that we're doing is we know, when we're planning in-person events, we're asking people to come for a half a day or a full day and spend time with us. We know that in a virtual environment, we're not going to get anybody's attention for that long. So the other thing that we've been able to do is really break these sessions down into multiple day sessions, sometimes spread out over a week or a month or every other week for a couple of months, those kinds of things, in order to make it really easy to participate and to fit into people's new work lives, home lives, etc. And then we're using the follows board, again, that single point of destination for complementary content. It's where they're coming to join the events. It's where they're coming to see the speaker slides, those kinds of things. The other thing that using the On24 platform, and really just a virtual event in and of itself, which was a little unexpected and not necessarily a goal, but something that we've really discovered as we've moved through the execution, is that in the past we were hosting events on site, usually at a headquarter type location. But if we had large, distributed teams in other countries outside of that headquarter country or headquarter location, we were having to lean on the sales team in that country or a field marketing team to execute an event that was somewhat like what we were giving the headquarter team. By doing virtual events, we are actually able to deliver a consistent experience across all geographies and all of our customer base and all of their employees to make sure that they're all getting, kind of that firsthand delivery, knowledge, and execution in what we're doing. So, of course, we're also making everything available on demand after the events are over so that people who couldn't make the time or in a geo that didn't work for the time zone, etc., that recorded content is always available on demand for future access. And finally, as each event concludes and we transition to on-demand access, we're publishing speaker slides and other resources, almost like when you listen to a podcast and you get the speaker notes in the podcast summary. That's what we're doing here. So all the speaker notes, anything that a presenter recommended, mentioned, talked about, we're able to put those links and those resources out on the follows board so that everybody has a really great way to follow up on that. And then we're also taking the opportunity to cross-promote other events and opportunities to engage. The example you see here is ClickWorld, which is Click's virtual user conference that was held a couple of weeks ago. But really understanding what we want someone to do next, how else they might engage with us. That post-event engagement, and frankly all of the engagement with the follows boards, is able to be shared with our sales teams and our marketing teams so that they can inform and influence future events and strategies with this customer and even with others. We're using a lot of these learnings in how we're executing with other customers as well. But the bottom line and what you really want to know is it working? And I'm pleased to share that it's really working for us. So in 7 weeks since we first launched this program, we've run fast and furious. We've actually hosted 6 event series with multiple events per series. We've got an average attendance of about 135 people at each event, which is approximately 2 to 3 times the attendance we would normally see at an in-account event. Those people are attending multiple events. They're consistently staying all the way through to the end and really participating in a live Q&A that becomes pretty interactive. We're really pleased with the conversion metrics that we're seeing. We're pleased with the variety of people who are able to participate in these events, not just from a level or function standpoint, but I talked about geographies too. We've had registrations and participants from 19 countries for these events, which has been really exciting. And I talked about really leaning on and partnering with our customer champions to help us drive registration and get to new people. The impact of that is that more than 60% of registrations are coming from first ever responders, meaning that whether they were in our database or not, and I can tell you most of that 60% was not already in our database, they had never responded to a Click marketing program. So this is their very first response, which is really exciting to start engaging with new people and really showing them how Click is changing and transforming the work that they're doing. And of course, we're always watching impact to pipeline. So working very closely with sales to understand follow-up with our BDR team, as well as opportunities that were either influenced or generated and how those are moving through pipeline to make sure that we're doing right by the business and that we're doing right by our organization to invest the time and resources in this program to drive revenue longer term. And we're not done. So with another 6 event series in active planning, I just checked registration numbers this morning. We've got over 500 people that have given us over 2,000 responses for those upcoming event series. And I've got 8 more accounts that are on deck and looking to plan similar series, and that number continues to grow for us. So I know that this is a program that we'll continue to execute through the end of the year and continue to work with additional customers across our base. So that's kind of the story of what we've been working on. Thanks for your time. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn or elsewhere on social. So with that, I'm happy to, Gary, turn the floor back over to you and kind of move into your conclusion here.
Awesome. That's an amazing story, Colleen. It begs the question, of course, are you and your team managing to stay busy these days?
You are funny, aren't you? It goes back to that scalability, though, because we knew that if we built this program wrong, or any of the things that we're trying to do, we would really get to a point where it was unsustainable from a workload standpoint. The way that we're building this program in a modular way really helps it fit into a lot of the other work that we're needing to do, and helps us all stay a little bit sane. Maybe go spend some time with our family that's all home when they normally wouldn't be.
What a nice segue, actually. That was good. To our conclusion. You didn't even do that on purpose, did you? So, in summary, if you want to make a highly effective, personalized ABX program and still have time to spend with your family who's at home, assuming that's what you want, 3 key things to keep in mind. First, undefined goals lead to unrealistic expectations with both the family and your ABX program. And second, you can't click on what you want to click on. There we go. Poor focus. That leads to slow slide transitions and leads to inconsistent results. And finally, if your messaging isn't valuable, your engagement won't be meaningful. So you need to make sure that you're providing messaging that really adds value to that customer experience. If you found this interesting, which I hope you have, we are actually at Follows going to be holding a series of ABX masterclasses where we'll be digging into much greater depth on several topics about how to execute your own successful, highly personalized, scalable ABX program. And Colleen probably doesn't need it because she's a master already, but other folks can probably find some value. So if you check out follows.com/ABX masterclass, you'll get all the details about how you can participate in that too. So that's the presentation. Colleen, wonderful job. And Gary, good job, I guess.
You did a great job, Gary.
Thanks, Colleen. And Marjorie, are there any questions that have come up from our audience? Colleen and I would love to be looking at them.
We've actually had a few questions come in. Thank you guys so much for this incredibly thorough and informative presentation. So we've got a question here. How much content do you need to launch ABX?
Colleen, do you mind taking that? That probably makes more sense for you.
Yeah, I think that if you're thinking about launching any account-based marketing program, my first piece of advice is go see what content you already have. I know that I am surrounded by great product marketers and great marketing practitioners that are constantly generating new content that really is great for our customers. And I find that I can lean on that content either in long form or some portion of it more often than not. And then it helps me really focus on what are the very few pieces that I need to build specific to a particular customer or customer base or set of use cases, and really focus my energy there rather than focusing on having to build everything. So I would say go look at your document repositories, get into your Google Drive, see what already exists, and pull out that stuff, and then figure out what are the couple of pieces. You don't want to overwhelm your customers, so I guess that's my long way of saying you don't need a lot of content, you just need the right content. Gary, are you seeing that across other customers, or how are you guys really at Follows executing that?
Absolutely. I mean, as a product marketer, I'm the one who's going to tell you, when you actually look under the hood, you'll probably be shocked how much high-quality content you have out there. And it's our inclination as humans to say, well, I used this one already, and so I don't really want to send it out there again. But you may not have used it in a specific context. You may not have used it with a specific account base. You may not have used it in a specific campaign or with a specific set of messaging. So by reapplying it for different circumstances, you can give it an entirely new and useful life. So it's definitely, I agree with you, Colleen, it's worth checking out what do you have already, and you may be surprised at how valuable that is. And then you can grow from there.
Okay, so next question. What's the biggest mistake that people make launching an ABM program?
So I would argue...
Gary, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, and let's see if it's consistent with your experience. It won't surprise anyone who's watched the presentation thus far. It's lack of clear goals, right? People say, "Oh, I got to go get me some ABM," and without thinking thoroughly about, what are you really trying to achieve with the ABM, and what, who are you trying to reach, what kind of behaviors are you trying to drive, what kind of goals for your organization, how are you going to make people successful in a way that they want to engage with you. So focus, 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 and define your goals, define your goals, define your goals. And the biggest mistake I see people make is they don't do those. And then they wonder afterwards, well, why wasn't I successful? And it's because, what's success even look like for you? What do you think, Colleen?
I would probably build on your answer around goals and say that the biggest mistake on top of not being clearly focused in your goals that I've seen is waiting for a program to be perfect or hoping that a program is perfect before you launch. And we've all seen those programs where you want to cover every single detail and get to the point where you tie the pretty red bow around the box and you hand it off to the customer and it's all perfect, without having that flexibility for adjustment and looking at the results and understanding that you are going to ebb and flow and change over time in how your customers are responding to things. There may be a piece of content that works great today because of something else that's going on in the news and something that's out of your own control, but you may need to switch to a new piece of content or a new message or a new approach in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I mean, that's kind of why we got into building this program, was we thought we had a plan in place and we had to get super flexible in our execution. So I would say not having flexibility or waiting for that program to be perfect would be the second mistake that I see.
All right, last question, and if you submitted a question through our On24 platform and we didn't get to it, don't worry. We did get it, and we will definitely get back to you over email. But last question for today, how much work was required to align your execs and leaders?
So I would say that our executives were really supportive from the beginning for our program, and not just for this virtual passport program, but really in general for the account-based marketing program, because we're delivering results and our customers really enjoy working with us. So, getting executive support is something that we've built over time. We've built a lot of trust with them, and it lessens that work that we have to do on an individual programmatic basis. We're not at the point where we get automatic yeses from the execs when we ask for support, but it definitely greases the skids a little bit.
Gary, did you want to answer before we sign off for today?
No. I mean, it's an execution question, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Oh, okay.
Although, I guess across our, I don't know. I'm trying to be deferential here. But no, I mean, across our customer base, that's pretty consistent, right?
All right.
And you lean back to the data, right? If the data says support, the execs will support.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, success is success, right? If you've defined success, who's going to say, I don't want more of that?
All right. Well, thank you so much to our speakers, Gary and Colleen. We've enjoyed having you with us today, and thank you to all of our listeners and participants for listening and watching and asking great questions. Please take the time to register for more sessions through July 24th. Our next webinar session will be coming up very shortly at 1 p.m. Again, Thanks, everyone, for your participation. Please don't forget to fill out our survey, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks so much, and thanks from DGR. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Marjorie. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.